Today, I'm flying KLM's Boeing 777 economy class on a 6.5-hour flight from Amsterdam Schipol to Dubai Airport. And whilst my expectations were low going in, I was actually left pleasantly surprised, especially by their a la carte meal option, which was one of the best meals I've ever had in economy. So buckle up and watch this video to see if you should fly long haul with KLM. We start off at Amsterdam Schipol Airport, where I had just arrived off a short flight from London City Airport. In 2024, this airport was the 4th busiest in Europe and 17th busiest in the world, with 67 million passengers. And they all managed to fit inside the single terminal, which as you can see is pretty big. What's more, they don't divide arrivals and departures into separate areas, which makes it feel extremely crowded. Though it does have the benefit of making non-Schengen connections extremely efficient, as you walk off the plane straight into departures without having to clear security or passport control again. So if you're connecting from say the UK or USA to somewhere in Asia like I was today, then it's pretty much the ideal airport. Though I've heard passport control here is a mess, which makes connecting to or from the Schengen area a hassle. And here's the plane taking us to Dubai today, a 21-year-old Boeing 777-200ER registered PHBQA. This one specifically is named after Albert Plesman, who it turns out was one of the original founders of KLM way back in 1919. So that's a nice nod to their heritage as the world's oldest airline still in operation. Also, let me just say that I love the light blue KLM livery, probably my favourite looking European airline and quite unique. And it seems Korean Air thought so too, as their new livery is definitely more KLM-like than the old one. Plus they lost the blue and red yin and yang symbol, which made it so unique. But that has nothing to do with this video, so let's get back to KLM. Boarding started about 30 minutes before the scheduled departure time, but we ended up sitting on the ground for a while and departing an hour late. The pilots blame this on the inbound flight arriving late from Atlanta, but that was a dubious claim, as you can see on flight radar that the flight actually arrived a few minutes early. But anyway, here's the route map and stats for today's flight. We departed an hour late, making most of that delay up in the air to arrive 25 minutes behind schedule, for a total distance of about 3,200 miles or just over 5,000 kilometers. Arriving at Dubai International Airport's Terminal 1, which is used by pretty much all airlines here except Emirates and Fly Dubai. Also, here's the seat map for the Boeing 777-200, with 35 business seats, 24 premium seats and 263 economy seats. I sat almost all the way in the back in seat 40K and I paid £22.37 for the seat selection. I sat this far back hoping for an empty row, but sadly that didn't happen as the flight was pretty much full today. The economy cabin felt quite fresh despite being a 21-year-old aircraft, but the seats were still a bit dated as they aren't the latest version that KLM use on their newer aircraft. Legroom is average with 31 inches of seat pitch, but it is quite narrow, only 17.1 inches wide, which is noticeable during meal service when you and your neighbour's elbows keep clashing. There's a folding tray table with nice light blue accents, and a tiny 9-inch TV screen with a USB port for charging. And there was also a power socket under the seat which I forgot to film. The adjustable leather headrest is pretty comfy, and again I like the various shades of blue they're using throughout the cabin. Then you get a very average pillow and blanket, and again some very average headphones are handed out after boarding. So overall, a very average economy class seat, similar to many European airlines, but falling short of the likes of Singapore Airlines. The entertainment system is pretty good though, with an excellent selection of movies, but TV shows were a bit more disappointing as many only had like 2 or 3 episodes, which seems kind of pointless. And then there's a decent interactive map, and a little guide for connecting to the Wi-Fi, which I'll cover once we're in the air. And lastly, there's a magazine which is getting more and more rare these days, and the magazine has a few pages of super detailed route maps and fleet details, which I always like to read. Eventually we pushed back and the safety video started playing, which was quite good as far as safety videos go. And a nice nod to the Dutch Delft pottery, which you'll see all over KLM lounges, business class and during the meal service on this flight.
This authentic Royal Delft pottery, we would like to explain the safety information on board your KLM flight through the fine art of Delft blue. Please pay attention to every detail. Airlines, we wish you a very pleasant flight.
Now get ready for a very scenic takeoff heading north right over central Amsterdam. switched off after only 4 minutes, and I know it was that fast as I was still filming the takeoff. And service started with a large bottle of water and a refreshing hand wipe. Unlike most airlines, KLM give economy class passengers the choice to pre-order an upgraded meal from their a la carte menu. I paid £19 extra for this Indonesian meal, which I highly recommend for 2 main reasons. First, it's served first, so I actually finished my meal about 20 minutes before my neighbour even received theirs. And second, you get way more food than the regular meal. Mine was a beef rendang for the main, tempeh noodles as a starter with a side salad and 2 desserts, plus a Heineken to drink. The food quality also seemed better than regular economy meals too. And beef rendang is one of my favourite dishes, so overall this was probably my favourite meal I've had in economy. Well worth it on a long haul flight, and I can imagine if this flight was like 12 hours or something, then I would appreciate it even more. Metal cutlery would have been nice though. The IFE system also had a drinks menu, which is useful as most people don't realise how extensive the drinks menu can be, even in economy, so I got a ginger beer too. Also for reference, this is what the free economy meal would look like, which made me go like this.
Brother, what's that?
Okay, that's an exaggeration, but it is still a downgrade from what I had. And now onto the Wi-Fi. You get free basic access throughout the flight, but it's only fast enough for messaging. Faster speeds seem unreasonably expensive at €38 for streaming speeds for the whole 6-hour flight. So instead, I watched Gladiator 2 and was shocked to learn that the ancient Romans domesticated rhinos and rode them like horses. The more you know. As the sun began to set, the crew served tea, coffee and a dessert, which was a tasty Dutch apple pie. I made the unwise choice of eating this too, which made that 3 desserts and 1 meal for me. Now after the massive meal, it's time for the loo review, which was large and kept clean throughout the flight, so no complaints there. They also put out drinks and snacks in the galley for anyone who was still hungry, and I'll admit I took a few with me. Finally, an hour before landing, they served a pre-landing snack. This was just a cheesy pesto pizza, same as what you would get in Lidl, but it hit the spot, though the dough was a bit on the soggy side. So overall, an impressive food offering on this flight, and better than I would have expected on a barely 6-hour flight, as European airlines are notoriously stingy when it comes to food. Of course, me ordering the Indonesian meal made a big difference, but even the free offering was quite generous. Now, here's our landing into Dubai, where we were treated to quite a good view of the city, including the Burj Khalifa. As we head off the aircraft, it's time to sum up the flight. Starting with Amsterdam Schipol Airport, it's great if you're connecting in the non-Schengen area, but was extremely crowded and I hear passport control is a nightmare. Then the Boeing 777 economy class was pretty average and comparable to all other big European airlines. The a la carte meal was where they really shined though. Singapore Airlines Book to Cook is the only similar service I can think of, but that's only for business class. So the fact that KLM do this in economy is great. And the free food options seem alright as well, but nothing special. Cabin crew were also really friendly and offered good, attentive service, so overall I would say KLM are a solid but not great airline. They compare favourably to other European airlines like British Airways and Lufthansa, but struggle to compete with the really world-class airlines like Singapore Airlines or Emirates. So here's my final thoughts and score. A very solid flight today despite the small delay and very small TV screen, mainly because I was just really impressed by the great a la carte meal and the friendly cabin crew. And I enjoy the fact that KLM still show off their unique Dutch character, unlike a certain German national airline. so KLM earned themselves a solid 8 out of 10 on my tier list of all the airlines I've flown on this channel. Now, next week's video will be a review of Royal Brunei on their Boeing 787-8 from Dubai back to London. This was an interesting experience and also incredibly cheap, costing only £165 for the direct flight. So like and subscribe if you want to see that and much more. Thanks for watching and goodbye.